In today's film, the story kicks off with a quick rundown of Project Connect. Captain James, the key player, is gearing up to teleport and establish contact with extraterrestrial beings. Positioned in his spacecraft, James awaits the green light from COM-1. Once clearance is given, he activates the teleportation device. However, after a brief pause, a brilliant flash of light transports James to a different machine. Regaining consciousness, he realizes his spaceship is now orbiting a second planet, grappling with multiple malfunctions due to zero fuel. With no other choice, James evacuates to an abandoned ship, equipping himself with a gas mask. Adjusting the ship's trajectory toward the new planet, James takes a daring plunge through its atmosphere. Safely ejecting from the descending spaceship, he lands on the ground. Surveying the barren surroundings, he spots smoke in the distance. Following it, James discovers a crashed spacecraft engulfed in flames. Checking his device, he finds the planet's oxygen levels are breathable, prompting him to remove his gas mask. In his first transmission to COM-1, James describes his predicament. His ship is destroyed, and he urgently requests a rescue mission. He also notes the absence of intelligent life on the planet. The terrain where James landed was desolate, stretching for miles without any signs of life. Transmitting messages across the vast expanse took 3 hours each way, leaving James with little to do after sending his distress call. As he rummaged through his bag, he discovered he had only enough food for 5 days. Taking a sip from his water bottle, he was startled by the sound of machinery beside him. In the commotion, he dropped the bottle, spilling precious water on the barren ground. Ascending a hill to investigate, James found nothing in the vicinity. Now deprived of water, his chances of survival were slim unless he could find a source or get rescued. With hours passing and no response from COM-1, James decided to rest for the night, hopeful for a callback the next morning. However, the following day brought no relief. Having spent almost 24 hours on the planet without encountering intelligent life or a water source, James resolved to move and seek sustenance. Fortune smiled upon him as he stumbled upon a small river. Testing its purity with his device, James confirmed it was safe to drink. Filling his water bottle, he continued his journey. Climbing a hill, he used binoculars to observe an unidentified creature. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out, and James witnessed a robot hunting the animal. Mistaking the robot for a friendly entity, he waved, only to be met with a shot narrowly missing him. Fleeing down the hill, James narrowly escaped the hostile robot. However, as he walked along the road, a speeding truck nearly takes his life. Later that day, James stumbles upon an abandoned stone house and decides to spend the night there. With no callback from COM-1, he begins to lose hope that rescue is imminent. The next morning, he formulates a new plan, seeking out the creators of the robots in the hope that they can assist him in reaching orbit. His reasoning is that if there's a life form capable of building robots, there must also be one capable of constructing a spacecraft. Following a paved road, James walks throughout the morning, briefly resting and dreaming of his newborn child. The tranquility is shattered by a gunshot, jolting him awake. As he opens his eyes, he spots multiple trucks on the road, accompanied by robots. Panicking, James dashes into the forest, only to encounter a robot with a robotic dog. Attempting to hide, he is discovered, and the robot opens fire. In an attempt to escape, James is shot in the hand. Realizing escape is futile, he grabs a stick, charges at the robot, and successfully disables its camera. Seizing the opportunity, he removes a chip from the robot and makes a run for it. Nursing his wound, he takes a brief nap. Upon waking, he discovers the robot dog beside him, its gaze fixed on him. Anxious, James stands up, but to his surprise, the robot dog shows no signs of aggression. James realizes that the robot is simply following its chip, explaining its proximity. He retrieves the chip, and together, they continue down the road. During their journey, James spots a bottle in the road, but the unfamiliar language on it perplexes him. Soon they come across an abandoned house, and James decides to explore it. Inside, he discovers a gun, which he takes for protection, and a projector with a film. Activating the projector, he witnesses a family celebrating a holiday, and a nearby newspaper sheds light on a grim reality. World War III has unfolded, with nuclear attacks on Washington, D.C., London, and Berlin. The West retaliates with devastating bombings, as depicted in the video. Examining another newspaper, James learns that people have sought refuge in underground bunkers to survive the nuclear onslaught. Determined to find these bunkers, he spends the night in the abandoned home, gathering necessary supplies for the journey ahead. In the morning, he sets out, utilizing the robot dog's carrying capacity to lighten his load. Surprisingly, the robot dog changes direction and accelerates so swiftly that James struggles to keep up. After a considerable run, they arrive at a destroyed nuclear power plant. James speculates that the robot may be leading him to where survivors are located. Following the robot dog into an abandoned town, he observes half-destroyed buildings and an eerie absence of any living inhabitants. In the heart of the town, the robot dog unexpectedly halts, leaving James bewildered. When he questions the robot, it drops a smoke grenade, coinciding with an onslaught from a drone. Taking cover behind the smokescreen, the robot dog shields itself, enabling James to slip into one of the abandoned homes. Drones multiply in the town, attacking residences, while a larger robot enters the house James occupies, firing at him. Evading the attacks, James finds a hiding spot. Despite his attempt to elude the robot, it persists in pursuing him. Suddenly, the robot and the drone engage in a firefight, diverting their attention. Seizing the opportunity, James and the robot dog escape the besieged town, continuing their journey. Eventually reaching the bunkers, they encounter an automated defense system repelling the attacking drones. James, scouring the area, discovers a door. Upon opening it, he encounters a dusty room, prompting him to don his gas mask. Venturing further, he discovers a lengthy underground tunnel. As he navigates, he encounters a robot walking directly toward him. Firing his gun proves futile, forcing James to retreat into another hallway leading to a different room. In this new space, he identifies another door that appears crucial. Despite his attempts to open it, the door remains locked. Remarkably, the pursuing robot ignores James, opening the locked door and entering. Following suit, James discovers a human skeleton on the floor. Approaching cautiously, he prepares to investigate, but is interrupted by a message from COM-1. They inform him that they've just received his transmission and have been grappling with communication issues with the machine. Kamen reveals that the machine insertion into the planet's orbit is exceptionally irregular, causing difficulties in linking it with their home planet's machine. Due to this challenge, they are unable to dispatch a rescue party until the cause of the problem is identified. Urging James to return to the machine promptly, they emphasize the urgency of the situation. Determined, James presses on through the hallway and eventually locates the control room. Upon entering, he is met with a grim scene. Everyone in the control room is deceased, seated at their computers. An automated message plays, warning of a system override and the detection of a chemical weapon. As James approaches the computers, he views security footage revealing that the entire bunker's population has succumbed to a chemical attack. Overwhelmed with despair and frustration, James vents his emotions by striking the lifeless skeleton. In the midst of this desolation, another message from COM-1 arrives. They disclose a significant miscalculation on their part. The machine had actually arrived on the new planet years earlier than initially believed. The revelation shakes James, altering his perception of the time frame and leaving him to grapple with the realization that he may be stranded on a planet devoid of life. James, absorbing the shocking revelation about the machine's connection to the planet, scans the room in despair. His attention is drawn to a poster on the wall featuring an image of the machine alongside a Bible verse about Jesus' return. This unexpected juxtaposition deepens the complexity of the situation. Another discovery, a news article, unfolds a narrative of world leaders debating the machine's origin, whether it's extraterrestrial, divine, or a creation of another government. As James grapples with the harrowing realization that the machine designed for interstellar connection became the harbinger of extinction for his own people, a startling revelation emerges. James himself is an alien. The planet ravaged by World War III is none other than Earth. Returning to James, he exits the bunker, his hopes of finding survivors and constructing a new spacecraft shattered. Overwhelmed with grief and contemplating suicide, he kneels down, placing his gun against his head. In the depths of despair, the memory of his children pierces through the darkness, prompting him to reconsider. Choosing to endure and live on, James, burdened by the weight of his alien identity and the catastrophic consequences of the machine, faces an uncertain future.